Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. That means, once again, as you know, we got AEW Dynamite with big businesses. As you know, a lot of surprises have taken place for us, and I think many of you are going to be so happy about it. But first things first, we have two of Japanese pro wrestling promotions taking place as well that took place on a Wednesday. The first one is from the promotion GLEAT with version 10. This one features a one-day tournament for the G Infinity tag titles that were vacant recently by the Saito brothers. So basically, we're going to be crowning brand new tag champions. But also, the G Rex championship will be defended as well. Then we move on with more of New Japan Pro Wrestling with the second rounds of the New Japan Cup. So we will see who else advances and other preludes that leads to that. And then, of course, we cap it up with some news updates. We're only going to focus on the updates on the promotions and their upcoming events, such as who's booked, what matches are set, and of course, updates for WrestleCon in Philly. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome, everybody, to the Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. In case if I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed upon. We also do the Nagi Sayaka Watch and other various cool things as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting daily reviews and other cool stuff on this channel as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions are set aside, so I say let's get the show on the road with our very first review, and that is none other than GLEAT version 10. Okay, so let's talk about the promotion GLEAT with version 10. Now, this is just recently the latest one that just came out, so let's talk about it. Now, our first match is a 10-man tag team match, 5 on 5. But, however, each of the wrestlers involved in this are from various factions that I did not anticipate they were going to do, but it was very interesting. We have team number one. We have Issei Onitsuka and Yusuke Kodama representing the Yans family, Yuya Suzumu, Kuma Arashi, and of course Takehito Yamamura from Strong Hearts. They take on Juji, JD Lee, and Quiet Storm from Bulk Orchestra, and of course we have the guys from BGI, Kotaro Suzuki, and Hartley Jackson. It's kind of interesting how they have certain people mixed up. I mean, I wouldn't put the guys from Bulk Orchestra and BGI together since they basically are trying to prove who is the dominating faction. But however, them working together has proven why they are the most dominating groups in their own right. However, you would think that there was going to be a very interesting moment because it was Kuma Arashi who picked up the one when he did a diving body press onto JD Lee. Basically, he just pancaked them, so it was over right from there. Now, our next two matches are the G Infinity Tag Team titles in the tournament semifinals. Now, let me give you guys a quick recap. Recently, last month, we were supposed to have Kaz Hayashi and Shima to take on the Saito brothers for the G Infinity Tag titles. However, the situation has changed when Rei Sato got injured, and of course, the Saito brothers had no other choice but to uh, relinquished their tag belts and they were vacant. However, due to the circumstances, since it was already been set to have these two guys, Kaz Hayashi and Shima, involved, they put them involved in a tournament that will feature two semifinals and a final. Now, those two, in fact, are the first match involved. Shima and Kaz Hayashi, they take on the members of Bulk Orchestra, consistent of the first ever crowning champions, Kazuma Sakamoto and Ryuki Kawakami. Now, those who don't know, Kawakami and Sakamoto, they were the first ever G Infinity tag champions. So it made more sense to have them involved because they were the first. If you guys probably asked me who the second, well, it was the other members of Bulk Orchestra, Check Shimatami and Hayato Tamura. But however, Tamura is the current G-Rex champion, so he probably wouldn't make it. But however, it was very interesting because both orchestra are trying to make their way back to the top. But Shima and Hayashi, who known each other for many years, teaming up. I thought it was a pretty good match, but it was Hayashi with the backslide on Kawakami to pick up the win and advance into the finals. However, who will be joining them in the finals? Well, that's the interesting part. We have, of course, the leader of BGI, Kaito Ishida. He teams up with young, dumb, and broke Jordan Oliver. Now, I'm not 100% sure if he's a member of the BGI because he had BGI gear in his pants. Just you know, it, he wasn't wearing like the shirt. He had it like right hanging out on his pants. So I'm not sure if he is a full blown member or just a part time member. That's the thing that I don't know. We know he was set to show up, but yes, they take on the members of Strong Hearts, consisting of Seki Yoshioka and T Hawk. Um, you would think that this is going to be interesting because I know that Kaito Ishida is trying to prove that the dominance of BGI would have been the factor, but however, it was T Hawk who outsmarted Jordan Oliver to pick up the win, and they ended up in the finals. So we will see, of course, the Strong Hearts taking on Hayashi and Shima in the finals as part of the semi-main event later on. So we'll get to that. Our next match, we have Jun Tonsho and Soma Watanabe. Now, these guys have teamed up in the past. Sometimes they have fought against each other. However, they are teaming up to take on a couple of duos they can't stand. We're talking about Seigo Tachibana, and then there's Kurashio Tokyo Japan, or as we knew him back in WWE, Ikemen Jiro. So that's right. So they end up in this whole thing. But of course, with Ikemen Jiro with his shenanigans, as always with the jacket, would have been one of those things. Now, I wasn't surprised. I was like thinking, would Toncho and Watanabe had what it takes to put both Tachibana and Kurashio down? I don't know. That was the thing. But it was, of course, a somewhat of a really impressive kick by Kuroshio Tokyo Japan to who was it? To Tonsho and picked up the one. So just like that, it was over. Next up, we have El Lindaman representing Strong Arts taking on Bulk Orchestra's Czech Shimatani. Now, it's no secret that these two guys don't like each other. It's no secret that they are both from two different factions. That's pretty much what it is. But the real question is, these guys are about the same size, the same weight, but the real question is who is the most dominant out of their size. I mean, these guys can lift up a heavy person and put him down, but who was the strongest? I think that was the real question. But in the end, it was El Lindemann with the German suplex and proving his superiority to Czech Shimatani. Now, our next match, we have a very interesting match. We have Yu Izuka and Riki Aikata. They take on Tetsuya Izushi and Shuji Ishikawa. So it's a very interesting thing. We know that Recently, Izushi has been very impressive since the disbandment of 60 Seconds. Not to mention, he teams with a veteran like Shuji Ishikawa, and he takes on a guy who has a bit of the MMA background or sorts, like Kaida. But it was a pretty good match. However, in the end, it was of course Izushi with the a submission onto Ikeda, and that was over right from there. So it was pretty impressive. Next up, we have Takanori Ito, the leader of Yan's family, takes on the newest member of the Bulk Orchestra, Soi Daimonji. Now, these guys have tangled with each other in the past. Recently, Daimonji attacked one of the Yan's family members. Ito wasn't going to take that likely one way or the other. Now, this is a very interesting match because these two guys are proven they are the strongest. Now, don't forget, Ito is the first ever UWF champion, but he has to face against a very dominant wrestler. And unfortunately, it was Diamonji who actually picked up the win with a lariat to the back of Ito's head, and just like that, it was over. Now we have our only match that involves the Yoshi wrestlers. We have coming from Sendai, um, Shihiro Hashimoto, or Hashi as we call her. She takes on Michiko. Now it's not the first time these two have tangled with each other. We know in the past, in recent GLEAT events in the past, they have faced off each other. I mean, Michiko has always been proven her dominance in GLEAT, but when it comes to Hashimoto, she's the type who is like saying, "Okay, if you're dominant, then prove it to me." She's that type of person. But you would think that Michiko would have found a way. No, unfortunately, that did not end well because it was Hashimoto who picked up the win when she applied a German suplex. Now, our next match is the finals of the G Infinity Tag Titles. We have Kaz Hayashi and Shima. They take on Strong Hearts, Seki Yoshioka, and T-Hawk. Now, you would think this is going to be interesting because don't forget, Shima is also a member of Strong Hearts, but he is close friends with Kaz Hayashi, so he knows how to separate himself, knowing that yes, you're facing against your own teammates. Well, your own teammates, but now you have to put that to the side and go at stake, knowing that you're teaming with someone who you are close with, and this could be his final opportunity to pick up gold. And that's exactly what this one is. The stakes were high for both Shima and Hayashi, since Hayashi mentioned about the possibilities of retiring. But this was a pretty good match, I'm not going to lie. But it took only a very amazing combination between Hayashi and Shima to put away what's his name, T-Hawk, and it was over. But it was Shima with the final blow with the Meteora, and just like that, they become our brand new G Infinity Tag Champions. However, it didn't take long until someone decided, "Oh, we're gonna be your next challenger," and those challengers are none other than Quiet Storm from Bulk Orchestra, and he teams up with someone I did not anticipate or think about that he was gonna do it, and that is Kama Arashi, and I'm like, that's interesting. I mean, is Kuma Arashi a member of Bulk Orchestra now? That's a good question. I hope the next GLEAT show could explain that for us more, but we'll see. Now, our next match, we have the G-Rex Championship. Hayato Tamura, he defends the belt against Minoru Tanaka. I thought this match was very intense and very like the type that will get you on your feet because here's the thing. Minoru Tanaka is also good friends with both Kaz Hayashi and Shima, and all three of them who are veterans of pro wrestling, they would have been the ones to walk away with all the championships in this matter. But Hayato Tamura, who has shown time and time again about his dominance, is the reason why he is the champion himself. And it took only a very, very strong lariat to put away Minoru Tanaka, and just like that, it was over. So I think that's pretty much it with GLEAT with G version with version 10. So let's move on with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We continue with day 7th of the New Japan Cup. We are still in the second rounds of the Cup, so we'll see what happens until then. But for now, let's begin with the non Cup tournament matches. So let's get to it. Our first match we have Tomoaki Hama and Toru Yano teaming up. They take on the United Empire's Jeff Cobb and Great Khan. I have to say, this is a very interesting team up between Hamna and Yano. They haven't teamed up for a long time since, of course, when Yano was still a member of the Great Heel Bash. If you guys remember history, the Great Heel Bash were basically the most dominating faction in New Japan back in its day until Shinsuke Nakamura decided to fight against them, and Yano turned against, of course, Togi Makabe to side with Shinsuke Nakamura. If you guys didn't know that, if you're big time Shinsuke Nakamura and you did not know the history, you should check it out. It's very fascinating stuff. But however, many commentators did mention about, okay, how's things now with the United Empire in their side, in their camp. As you know, apparently there's two sides that are fighting over the fact how the United Empire should move forward. Jeff Cobb, on the other hand, is one of those guys that feels like they don't need a leader. So basically, it's more like, let's leave the leadership out. And I feel like maybe there are 2 points to this because from where I saw, it was Khan who picked up the submission on Hamna to pick up the win. So the honest question does tell: does United Empire actually need a leader? Well, we don't know because there are other members of the United Empire, Kalman Newman, Francisco Kara, TJP. They take on Chaos, Tomohiro Ishii, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto. Now, TJP, who is determined to step up as the leader. So basically, there's a bit of dissensions between both sides. But TJP, I can tell how he can organize people. Not to mention, he has Francisco Akira by his side. So we'll see where that leads. But how would this match fits into their narrative with the United Empire? Well, we know that Hiroki Goto is still in the game in the New Japan Cup, so that is a good thing to hear. But of course, it was the Shoto onto Newman to pick up the win, and Yoshihashi was the one who picked the initiate the pin, and it was over right from there. Our next match we have, of course, is Ryosuke Taguchi teaming up with Shota Umino, taking on House of Torture. Yeah, these scumbags, Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Jack Perry. Now, of course, Jack Perry, we all know he is still in the game. He set his sight to get his revenge on Sanada for what happened last year at Forbidden Door. And I'm sure Jack Perry is trying to tell Shota Umino, you and I are done. It's over. But of course, it was the dominance with Jack Perry that put away Taguchi and allowed him to win. But the real question I am asking myself is Shota Umino determined to stop Jack Perry from reaching his goals? So I would say if I was Shota Umino, I would get involved in that match just in case if House of Torture gets involved. So we'll see. Now our next match we have just five guys: Doki, Yuya Uemura, Taichi, and Sanada. They take on the Bullet Club's Gedo, Kenta, Chase Owens, and David Finlay. So there was nothing too significant about this, but of course, Finlay, who was trying to prove the dominance with, in this match, would have been a very explanatory thing. The one thing that was insane was Doiki doing what Kevin Kelly and Gino Gambino used to calling his submission known as the Doiki Choki. It took only 2 attempts for him to apply that onto Gedo, and then finally Gedo tapped out like the coward that he is. So that pretty much sets it up. Now, our next match, we have the House of Torture, consisting of Yujiro Takahashi and Ren Narita. They take on TMDK, Mikey Nichols, and Zack Sabre Jr. Now, don't forget, among the matches in the New Japan Cup, Zack Sabre Jr. will confront against Ren Narita. Now, Ren Narita hasn't forgotten the humiliation he suffered in the hands of Zack Sabre Jr. I'm sure that he'll get it, that he'll try to cheat, But if I was Zack Sabre Jr., I would get every available body around because, of course, House of Torture would try to prove their dominance by cutting corners. So that sets it up. But however, it was Mikey Nichols who picked the win, and it was over right from there. So it was done. Now, our next match, we have Togi Makabe, El Desperado, and the guys from GOD, Tongaloa, and LP. They take on Bushi, Hiromu, Yoda Tsuji, and Tetsuya Naito. Now, nothing too significant about this match in case anybody asks. But however, of course, this is more of a warm-up to see, of course, Yoda Tsuji, who is still involved in the New Japan Cup. And it was eventually him who picked up the win when he applied the Gene Blaster onto Makabe, and it was over right from there. Now, our next two matches are involving the New Japan Cup. Our first one, we have Hikuleo versus Evil. Now, Evil will do great lengths to get himself involved in this match. And just like always, whenever the ref is out, those scumbags of the House of Torture shows up to do their bidding. But luckily, Hikuleo had backup. He had, of course, the other members of GOD to show up to help a hand. But however, things did not go well because Evil applied the Everything is Evil onto Hikuleo to pick up the win. But however, that sneaky little bastard of Evil had something up his sleeve. He used a metal plate in his wrist to knock out Hikuleo, and he got away with it. Sooner or later, someone has to knock his ass out. So we'll see. Now, our main event, we have Gabe Kidd versus Shingo Takagi. Gabe Kidd thinks he's saying that this is over, that he wins his match. But Shingo, man, the guy has a lot of fighting spirit. Not even he could stop him. That is one of the things I like about Shingo. Shingo refuses to stay down no matter what Gabe Kidd, because Gabe Kidd, he's all about talk, but no action. And that's always been the case. But you would think that Shingo will find a way to knock out a guy who he's all talk, because Shingo, he doesn't do his talking. He does his talking in the ring. That's always what he's been known for. But luckily, it was the last of the dragons that put Gabe Kidd away and tell him, adios, kid. And Shingo advances. So we'll see where that leads to us. But I'm happy that Shingo retained. I mean, last time he was so close. He and Yoda Tsuji are two of my possible picks in this tournament. So we'll see what happens going forward with the New Japan Cup. So right now, let's move on with our final review, and that is AEW's Big Business. Well, okay, AEW Big Business. As you know, this has been the talk about this for quite some time. We all expected exactly the unexpected when this was announced and the location where it's going to be. And of course, predictions were right. And of course, we saw the debut of Mercedes Moné. Now, I know some of you probably are happy about this. Others, especially if I have any subscribers who are just pure WWE fans, you probably are pissed off that this has happened. Look, it's no one's fault, guys. The problem is things didn't go exactly WWE's way with Mercedes and Mercedes' way with them. That's the problem. But however, I think could be a good opportunity, in my opinion, to shape up the entire women's division, because we all know Mercedes Moné has a much higher level of recognition than any other women wrestling in the locker room. And of course, she's there because she says she wanted to be there. She needed to be there. It's more like she wants to bring out the best out of not just other women's wrestlers, but I feel like she is trying to, also bring the best out of herself as well. So basically, many of us have asked ourselves, okay, how will she integrate herself? What feuds she will be? Will she be pursuing any championships? That's one of the things that many of us have often talked about. So, but she did stated that she will be paying attention closely to the main event between Willow Nightingale and Rio. So that's one of the key things that that we will pay attention to. But she also made a statement that she is now all elite. Now, our very first match of that night, we have the AEW World Title on the line. Samoa Joe defends it against Warlow. Now, these two guys are no strangers with each other. Remember, they were part of a. They had like a somewhat of a tag team called War Joe, until Samoa Joe turned his back on him, and all of this and that. So basically, Warlow will love nothing more to get a little payback, but at the same time to dethrone him out of the AEW World Title and bring that belt back to the Undisputed Era. That's always been the real question there. So, um, as you probably would think, this is going to be a uphill, downhill type of battle because these are two behemoth wrestlers that you know is not going to be an easy takedown. Not to mention, we did see a moment of swagger from Joe. And of course, this ended with him applying the chokehold, forcing Warlow to tap out, and that's pretty much it. However, when the party started, we did see Swerve coming out. Security tried to hold him back not to get near Samoa Joe, but Joe had a ring. He even attacked the security guards. However, Joe, being the smart one in the room, decided to leave, knowing that after what happened last week, he knows that he's in trouble for it. But nonetheless, that's gonna be it. Now, our next match we have the Elite, consisting of the Bucks and Okada taking on Penta, Pac, and Eddie Kingston. Now, of course, Eddie Kingston had enough of the Elite with their selfish ways, with their EVP status. Saying that he's not dressed properly, he's not answering anybody's phone calls. But of course, that's Eddie. I mean, he is who he is, and they think that he needs to shape up and be something else. But that's not what Eddie's gonna do. So he began a war with them. Then Penta joined, and then of course, Pac joined the party as well. You would think there was gonna be some great moments, and it did. Pac and Okada, all this and that. But however, the things went south for Penta, and Pac and Kingston and Eddie when Nick low blowed Eddie Kingston when the ref did not notice, and then of course the Rainmaker was applied and it was over right from there. And as soon as the match was over, Okada picked up the Continental Crown Championship. So most likely he is probably targeting that belt. I mean, many people would have presumed would he aiming for the AEW World Title? I mean, that would have been the logical choice, but I think they're giving him time to establish himself just a little bit. So we'll see how that turns up. Now, we did see, of course, Will Ospreay had an in-ring interview with none other than Tony Schiavone, giving his thoughts about everything that's been happening. He's all hyped up. So I don't need to tell you guys how he is, but it's going to be amazing. Now, the thing with Deonna Purrazzo and Tony Storm is not done. So Deonna made it clear that she's not done after what happened at Revolution. But she said that she is going to observe her match this coming Friday at Rampage in a tag match with Mariah May. But she did state it next week she'll bring a tag partner. Now, many people have already speculating who that tag partner could be. But until I see it, then we can talk about it. So until then, we'll just hold on to it. Now, our next match, we have Jay White versus Darby Allin. Now, keep in mind, this is Darby Allin's last match because, as you know, from here on out, he'll be making his way to climb Mount Everest. So that kind of, well, we all know those who know the stories of Mount Everest, that is one mountain that you know that you cannot let either you survive or not. But anyway, the match itself is pretty interesting, and I think the commentators made a good observational point. Has Jay White ever dealt with a guy like Darby Allin? I mean, many people could say you never dealt with certain type of wrestlers that you may or may not have heard of. Jay White is one of those guys who can try to underestimate guys like Darby Allin. I mean, with his uniqueness being, like um, a high risker, which is what we call him. But you would think that would have been enough for Darby Allin to put away Jay White, but that wasn't the case. Uh, Jay White applied the Blade Runner, and it was over from there. And as soon as the match was over, the Guns even showed up, and then of course it happened. Um, Jay and the rest of the Guns were attempting to take out Darby, but the Acclaim tried to stop them, saying that this is not the right way to go. However, it seems that the Bang Bang Scissor Gang is no more. Jay White and the Acclaim attack. Jay White and the Guns attack the Acclaim. Seems that this little thing is done. However, it did not end there. They decided to break Darby Allin once again by using the chair on his leg and then boom, using a bat onto him, and it was over. But you know Darby Allin, if he does survive Mount Everest, he will get his revenge on Jay White and the rest of the Guns, because Darby, he is one person that he refuses to stay down no matter how many times he has been beaten. So we'll see what that happens. Now, our next match, we have Lion Hook, consisting of Chris Jericho and Hook, taking on the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Teo Leona. Now, keep in mind, not too long ago, Hook defended the FTW title against Brian Cage and successfully retained it. However, as soon as the match was over, the Gates of Agony attacked him, but luckily Chris Jericho stepped up to help him, and then of course the Gates of Agony attacked Jericho as well a week ago, and then a Hook repaid a favor. And now we're gonna see how they both team up. And I'm always curious when it comes to Hook. I always like to hear what Taz has to say about his son doing this and doing that, because even though Taz, he has no say in what Hook does, but of course he has an opinion about the mindset of his own son. Like, what does he think of him? Is this the right course of action for him? And I think that's a good how to say thing for him to learn. But I have to say, Jericho and Hook really hooked it up. They really synced in. But however, Jericho let Hook take the glory for this one when he applied the Ren Rum on Bishop Khan and he tapped out. But interesting enough, right after it, before our main event, there was an interview with Renee Paquette. She asked Jericho and Hook about this thing. Jericho said that he has no doubt in his mind that Hook will be a AEW World Champion one day, and he can bank on it. But however, he feels that there's more about Hook that he wants to know. He wants to know who Hook really is. So he asked him, "How about next week, you and I, in in the ring, one on one?" And of course, Hook accepted the challenge. I think this is a good opportunity. And as I said before, I'm always intrigued about Taz, about the mindset of his own son. When he does commentary, I like to hear what he has to say, because even though, like I said before, Taz does not interfere in his matches, but he always gets his thoughts about his son. The first time I ever saw that is when Hook teamed up with Danhausen. Who forget about that? So yeah. Now, we do see an interview with Renee Paquette she did with Kyle O'Reilly. Now, Kyle O'Reilly, as you know, been back after 2 years, and now he's making a play against Brian Keith. That's going to be a very interesting match to watch. However, Roderick Strong shows up and tries to congratulate him in his return, but at the same time, he tells him that he supports him, that he's going solo. Now, part of me would like to think that he is like that, but frankly, I don't know. I feel like they are going to try to persuade them to join the United Kingdom, that the Undisputed Kingdom. That is something that I do believe that could happen, but we'll see. Now, before our main event started, we do see a very interesting interaction with Riho and Mercedes Moné. It's very interesting that Mercedes decided to introduce herself to Rio, and it's no secret that these two women are champions themselves. I mean, Rio is in fact the first AEW Women's Champion. Mercedes Moné, well, she was the IWGP Women's Champion. She was, well, I think WWE Raw, both Raw, Women's SmackDown, and Women's Tag Champion. So you can see the very interesting interaction. Now, however, this main event is a very important tool. Now, as you know, Riho defeated Wilton Nightingale's tag partner and friend, Chris Statlander. However, this could put Willow on the map for a conversation for a shot of the AEW Women's title. So that is something that many people could talk. But however, in order to do that and to get in that conversation, we all can say she has to get through Riho, who we all know is the first ever women's champion. So that is, but the real question is this: we know Willow's a powerful individual. We know she's strong. She's very talented. But the real question is, does she have what it takes to stop someone like Rio, despite of her size? I mean, Rio is someone you don't want to underestimate. Many wrestlers who have faced against her has underestimated Rio time and time again. Yes, she's small. She may look a little weak to you, but do not count out the size of her heart. But Willow, I have to say, she was more determined than ever. And I feel like maybe this is one of the things that Stokely Hathaway has overlooked over time with Willow. And she pulled off the impossible by doing the Dr. Bomb onto Riho and picked up the win. However, things got out of hand when, of course, the arrival of Julia, and then Sky Blue attacked him from behind. And then Mercedes Moné showed up for the save. No one expected that. I mean, people are often saying, will she be making a play for the TBS title? I mean, that could be it, but we'll just gotta wait and see. Now, there was an exclusive interview where Renee Paquette went to the back because it turns out that Chris Statlander was attacked. She could have gone in to help out um, Willow Nightingale, but of course Stokely said that someone attacked her, and it doesn't take a genius. Who could that be? It was Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Now, Willow Nightingale apologized that she wasn't there for her, but Chris Sadler has had it with Sky Blue and Julia Hart for this. So we will see those two tangoed as soon as excuse me. It will tango again at some other point. So I think that's pretty much it for this one. So let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's get started. Let's begin with the updates on the promotions on their upcoming events. Now, for GCW, as you know, they'll have their Detroit show, Role Model, taking place on the 23rd of this month of March. It was announced that Matt Cardona will be in action. He'll take on very nice and very evil Danhausen. So that's going to be a very interesting match. So I'm kind of curious. I just hope Danhausen curses Matt Cardona. Now, as you know, Australian promotion Oceania Pro Wrestling has announced for their Australian Stampede show taking place on the 13th of April. There's going to be a championship match for the OPW Men's Championship. Adam Brooks will be facing against Mads Warner, so that's going to be interesting. Now, as you guys know, there's a show taking place for the fit at WrestleMania week during WrestleCon, the March Hitchcock Memorial Super Show. They announced a match for this one. Team CML take on Team Dragon Gate. So I'm excited for that because two different organizations. However, let me pull up who's gonna be in it. Representing CML, we have Barbaro Cavernaro, Star Jr., Averno, and Villano Tercero Jr. They face against Dragon. No, Mystico will be leading the team. I forgot. So it's a 10-man tag match. Mystico will be leading CML, but he'll be joined by Barbaro Cavernaro, Star Jr., Arveno, and Villano Tercero Jr. They faced the from Dragon Gate. Dragon Kid will be leading his group. He's joined by Ben K, Shun Skywalker, Yamato, and Kota Minoura. So that's a pretty interesting team to watch. Now, we do have, of course, DPW, Deadlock Pro Wrestling for No Pressure. That'll take place on the 14th of April. Andrew Everett will be in action to take on Adam Priest. And then, of course, a new show by West Coast Pro has been announced, and this one is produced by none other than Chris Hero, called Pro Res Mixtapes. This will also take place on the 14th of April. Now, as for a very interesting development, House of Glory has announced for their Boston show on in May on the 29th, Mustafa Ali will be there too. Now, finally, our updates for the WrestleCon event in Philly. Stingray from Cobra Kai, or should I say Paul Walter Hauser, will be there, and so will be CJ Perry. It's kind of interesting that she now be involved after, the recent development in her personal life with now divorced from her now ex-husband Mero. So I'm sure if I have any subscribers who are planning to go to Philly, I suggest you should say hi. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's just call it a day. Okay, so hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, I believe we have TNA and Impact Wrestling, so I'm excited to do those two. I haven't decided yet to what I'm going to be reviewing. I'm considering because recently there's been some recent shows I finally saw that were ready for me to watch. Some of them are from the Japanese scene. I haven't decided. There's Gambara Yoshi, Oz Academy, Marvelous, Ice Ribbon, DDT. Recently they added like some West WXW, which is the German promotion. There's a lot of wrestling I gotta watch, guys. I mean, it's just too much. But nonetheless, I'll do my best as possible just to do this. So we'll see what happens until then. But as a priority, NXT, TNA, and Ring of Honor are part of that. So we'll see what happens until then. But for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day.